We're just starting to see the impacts of COVID-19 on our beloved craft beer industry, not only here in the state of Arizona, but across the country. Welcome to the Brewmance on the radio. My name is Rob Hunter. Joining me as always is my main man, Mike Russell. What's going on, Mikey?
It's time to drink a beer. That's what's going on. We are hooked up by our man, Dennis, once again from Mother Road Brewing in another awesome installment of awesomeness. Can I say that? I'm just going to throw it that way.
Let's go with it.
It is the Roadside Grove American IPA with grapefruit. I love grapefruit.
I'm opening mine. It's time.
I'm opening mine too, man.
It's been a long week. It's Saturday night. It's time to start drinking. Now, we want to kind of remind you before we get into this, we'll tell you more about this Mother Road beer in just a second, that obviously if you spend any time on social media, you know that division is thriving. So many of us are kind of burned out on that. So this is where we get together and we come together. And it's so apropos because what it says on Mother Road cans is we're building community one pint at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why we love Mother Road Brewing so much. That and the fact they have not let us down with any single beer that they have made. Now, this Roadside Grove is a beer that you can only get in the tap room. But here's a hint to all the other brewers out there. If you got a guy like Dennis who brings us beer, we will put it on the Brewmance on the radio and give you a review and a bunch of free awesome plugs about how good your beer is.
This was handed to Rob this week, and it made it right on the beer of the week, just like that. So you're talking about one pint at a time, building relationships, communities. On this week's Go Show with me, that's Mike Russell. We talk about a podcast that I've been at. It's a video series from, I don't know if it's LAD Bible or Lad Bible. Don't know which one it is. It's called Agree to Disagree. And they set two people in front of each other that are completely opposite of each other. I mean, just the one that I was talking about, obviously with the Go Show, was the hunter and the vegan. And they'd put up a topic, whether it is hunting animals cruel. And then they would move their drink to one side of the table for agree or disagree or strongly agree or strongly disagree. And then they would start communicating. They would know where they stood right away and then start communicating. And it was a great example of what we've been talking about for a long time on the Brewmance, is that we can come to agreements on things. We can have civil discussions over a beer.
That's the whole point. Because look, there's a lot going on in the mask, no mask debate. We were accused this week on our afternoon show here on 550 KFYI by someone who wrote into the Facebook page of KFYI saying that we are encouraging people not to wear masks, which is actually not true. We are saying, do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reasons we have both decided separately that we are not wearing masks. And some of that for us is based in science. But the point is, if you wear a mask, I would never shame you. I would never walk up to you in a store and say that your decision is wrong, because that's not how we operate. That's not, we have opinions and we have feelings and we have reasons for those, but we don't necessarily need to say that my opinion has to be your opinion. That's why we crack open a beer and have these conversations.
But we can sit down with a beer and talk about the mask, no mask debates. But you would have to take off your mask, drink a beer. I win. No, I kid. That's not our goal. We're not trying to win. But you would have to take off your mask, have a beer. But I want to hear what you have to say. We have a friend, a mutual friend, that has been challenging me on the mask issue. And it got to the point on social media where it became social media trolling. And I said, hey, you have my number. Give me a call. Let's go sit down and have a beer. I'd love to catch up with you. And we'll talk about what I know and you tell me what you know, and we can come to an agreement. Crickets.
Well, and it's funny, right? Because oftentimes we try to go for the science behind it. And many of us don't actually know the science behind it. So the social media allows you to, before I write my next comment, let me go to Google, do masks work? Find the first story that says masks work, post it on the article or the Facebook post. I win. No, that's not true, because you cited we don't have to get into all the particulars of it, but that's how we debate on social media. It is much better to sit down face to face, because then you have to face each other and you have to deal with the other's emotions right in that moment rather than from afar via social media. So that's why we haven't really been fans of this lockdown, this close down, not only because of science, but because it further propels the divide that we create for ourselves on a computer screen.
Right.
Or a phone.
And right now, we need to, as a craft beer community, We need to unite. We don't need to divide each other. We need to find those opportunities to sit down at a local brewery and have these types of conversations. And I don't care if you're a total beer snob, if you're just craft beer lover like Rob and myself, we need to unify and not divide each other, especially over something as trivial as a mask. So we need to have a conversation about that, hopefully at a local brewery, hopefully supporting the local economy, hopefully supporting those breweries and keeping them open. When you have organizations like Forbes that recognizes that this lockdown might destroy, I think in their term was upend the entire craft beer industry, then you know that it's time for all of us to unite, come together, and support.
And here's an example. Jack's Abbey is a brewery in Framingham, Massachusetts. They may have to dump 100,000 gallons of beer. 100,000 gallons. Because, look, we made this push right at the very beginning. We're going to go support local. And when we talked to Laura Hansen, she's the owner of Saddle Mountain Brewing, which is in Goodyear, Arizona. She said there was a nice honeymoon period when we first closed. Everybody wanted to-go orders. So we scrambled. We made all these to-go orders. But after a couple of weeks, people didn't want to go out of their way anymore because we like convenience. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So we've seen beer sales increase quite a bit.
Yes.
But it's beer sales in the grocery store, the liquor store, of which you only have access to limited craft options in there. So, yeah, it's great if you're going to buy Huss or Santan or Four Peaks. But if you're going to buy, Oso, you have to go to Oso. If you're going to buy, just name a brewery. So many popping in my Desert Monks. You got to go to Queen Creek to get Desert Monks Brewery. So it's a step out of the way that poses a challenge when you shut down an entire industry. Because I'm just going to make one trip to the grocery store. It's our natural. We don't want to be out anyway, so our natural tendency is to make it easy on ourselves as possible. But there are impacts of that we ignore in the short term.
But it's challenging, though, even though, let's say all of us just decide, okay, we're uniting. We're on our way as craft brewers. We're going to go somewhere today. Make it a weekend, make it 3 days, make it a whole week. You get to stop by one each time. What I found a challenge, especially living in the West Valley, is one of my favorite spots, which is Transplant. Because their location is so small, social distancing and meeting certain guidelines has been difficult for them. So their hours have just really, really fluctuated, and they made their own choice to stay closed or stay very limited. So it has been a challenge in them and a few other breweries around town as well that I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop by that place on my way to the store. I'm going to stop by that place on the way to my friend's house, whatever it is. And you think, oh, I didn't check to see if they're opening or not. Oh, I'll just stop at the store and grab beer on the way and just that's it. So that's a challenge in and of itself, but do your best, I guess, is all we can encourage you to do.
And even here that we're kind of back open, there's sort of a weirdness in going out because no one's quite sure yet how to treat each other. So what we would hear advised at the Brewmance is, put your toe in the water if you're ready. And again, if you're not ready, you're not ready. But if you are ready, put your toe in the water. Go to one that allows you to sit down, see how it feels. Bring a mask if you want. Bring hand sanitizer. Bring whatever it is that's going to make you feel as safe as possible.
Wear a hazmat suit. We don't care.
Whatever. Yeah. But let's get out there and let's try to see if we can find a spot where we kind of feel normal and face the reality is that most of us, even if we get COVID-19, it's not going to be that harmful to us. Yes, some of us, it will be. But if you're healthy, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s, it is not fatal. It is not guaranteed to be fatal. And at some point, we're going to have to face that fear and get over it, or we're going to be in for a very much a long haul with this, which will make it way worse.
Yes. And I like what Rob just said, because it's an issue of what you're comfortable with. I'm not going to judge you for not being comfortable with it. If you've been going to the same store over and over for this time, and they got craft beer and you want to go grab some craft beer, go there. Good, cool. Because there's local stuff at most of the grocery stores anyway. We hope you're supporting local.
Yeah.
But if you are comfortable stepping outside of that, we encourage you to try that, but only at your comfort level. We'll encourage you by example. We're not going to encourage you by trying to shame you into saying, no, come on, you can do it. You did it before. Who cares? It's not that kind of a program. We want you to be comfortable and enjoy a good craft beer.
That's exactly right, Mike. It's just think about that, right? Just do it at your own pace, at your own volume, but know whatever that decision is that you're going to have, you got some support here at the Brewmance, because the only way to get over the division is to actually sit down face to face, have a conversation. For us, we love to drink craft beers. For you, maybe you just drink water. Doesn't matter. Didn't have to be beer. Doesn't have to be alcohol related. We'll get it done. So when we come back, what we want to kind of get into is a local guy here passed away, and the legend of him will continue through a beer. We'll tell you that story here on the Brewmance on the radio on 550 KFYI.
Finally getting your own beer after you're dead? What's up with that? Thanks, Uncle Bucky. It's Brewmance on the radio. He's Rob Hunter. I'm Mike Russell. We are celebrating our beer of the week, which comes to us from our good pals at Mother Road Brewing, Roadside Grove, American IPA with grapefruit juice. Very much enjoying that. And we'll get the beer review a little bit later. But Uncle Bucky passed away. This is Randall Jacobs. He passed away May 4th. And don't worry, this is not a COVID-19 in memoriam type of thing. What made us all know Uncle Bucky is the Phoenix Gazette obituary or the Arizona Republic. What was it? Is it Arizona Republic? Yep, Arizona. My apologies. Arizona Republic. Is there a Phoenix Gazette? I don't know if there's a Phoenix Gazette. Yeah. All right. So, Randall Jacobs of Phoenix died at age 65, having lived a life that would have sent a lesser man to his grave decades earlier. His friends called him RJ, but to his family, he was Uncle Bucky, a.k.a. the Bunkster. He told his last joke, which cannot be printed here, on May 4th, 2020. So that made some headlines. It went viral. Our pals at Oso have decided to immortalize Uncle Bucky in the best way they know how. They made a beer about the man.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like a lasting legacy. So it's I think one of his family members was working with Oso Brewery to immortalize Uncle Bucky the best way he knows how, a brew made in his honor. And at the very end of the obituary, it says, in lieu of flowers, please pay someone's open bar tab, smoke a bowl, and fearlessly carve out some fresh limes through the trees on the gnarliest side of the mountain. So this is a guy, he looks very familiar. So he looks like, he looks like a 65-year-old guy. He looks like a guy that you would see hanging out at a bar all the time. In fact, maybe he looks familiar because maybe we bumped into him along our craft beer travels, Mike. I don't know.
Wouldn't doubt that.
I would imagine that maybe he spent some time at Oso. If Oso was like, yeah, we'll make a beer in honor of him. So perhaps that's when we ran across him. And maybe that's what he did. He lived life on his own terms. And that's exactly what we should be celebrating, especially now when so many of us have kind of gravitated towards our own homes and have stayed in our own homes for so long. It does not appear that Randall Jacobs, a.k.a. the Bunkster, Uncle Bucky, did that. It appeared that he lived life on his own terms whenever he wanted to.
Now, I don't think this is the best picture that Uncle Bucky has ever had taken of him for his obituary, but I'm going to tell you this, why I love it. And I think this is why his family picked this for his obituary, is because it looks like he's wearing his life on his face. Like he has the look in this picture of a man who did not sit on the sidelines of life. He's a man that lived life. And there's a lot of character in that face.
Yep.
And a lot of knowledge in that face. And I'm sure a hell of a lot of stories in that face.
And that's the kind of people you want to remember. The people that actually did live, whether they lived in accordance with your ideals or values or not. The fact that they lived life the way they wanted to live life. And whether they passed away at the age of 85 or 65, in Uncle Bucky's case, let's celebrate. Like life is supposed to be a celebration. It's meant to be lived. And I think we need reminders of that, especially right now. So if that's the story that they tell at Oso behind this beer, and they say, look, this is a beer for Uncle Bucky, a guy that lived by his own terms the way he wanted to live, because so many of us don't. Because, we maybe go to college, maybe get a degree, you work in a career, you try to make ends meet. You put up with corporate stuff. You just go through the system. And it doesn't seem like Uncle Bucky was that kind of guy.
No.
It doesn't seem like he was the guy that plugged in and just did what was expected of him to be as an adult male. He was like, nah, I'm going to be at the bar, hanging out with my people. I'm going to have 1,000 friends, people that come into bars on a regular basis. I'm going to befriend as many of them as possible, and I'm going to just do it the way I want to do it.
Yes, absolutely. He did not do life boring. And I'm going to be honest with a lot of people. A lot of people here, we're going to talk like grown-ups. We live life boring.
Mm-hmm.
We do the same routine every single week. We do the same every single day. We never mix it up, never have an adventure. We never go do something stupid because we're afraid of doing something stupid when doing something stupid is the only way you learn how to do things. So get out there and have some fun. Be Uncle Bucky. How about that? Be an Uncle Bucky.
And maybe you get a beer named after you.
No, I'm not worried about that. I just want to be like Uncle Bucky. I want my face to look like this dude's when I'm that old.
Yeah.
That's only 20 years away, bro.
I know. But it looked nice and weathered.
Yes.
You got some life lessons you can teach others in there.
Yes.
I'm down with that for sure.
That skin looked cured.
Exactly.
That guy's seen some sun. He didn't die of lack of vitamin D. Let's put it that way. Uncle Bucky's teaching him, man.
Yep.
That's right.
Well, it's interesting, too, because it becomes a draw. So if your place like Oso becomes a draw, so now you can promote the fact that you're making a beer for Uncle Bucky or whoever it is. So this could be any kind of special beer. That may be what spurs us into action, to get us out of our homes and our comfort zones, to come back to breweries, these special beers, whether it's in memoriam, named after someone, or whether it's some kind of special stout that you've created from some special recipe that you've made up. This is the chance to get people to come back home, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. And the come back home thing is important because this you don't catch Oso beers, think they distribute. So you're not seeing Oso beers in grocery stores. So I think when that happens, it should in some way, and I hope not negatively, impact the dine-in service that is and should be most likely your bread and butter. So when they have a beer like this, it gets headlines. We talk about it here on the Brewmance. People are like, man, I've been to Oso in a minute. I'm glad they're open back up. I'm going to go check them out. I want to get over to Oso and enjoy myself and maybe have an Uncle Bucky beer, which I'm probably going to do this weekend.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm not sure when it's going to be out yet, so it might be
jumping the gun, really?
You might be able to go to Oso and at least say, hey, I know you're having this Uncle Bucky beer, and because that made me think of you, I'm coming into the shop to have a couple of your IPAs, of your stouts, of your peanut butter brittle. That peanut butter one, they need to remake that because my buddy will drive there hours to get there for that peanut brittle beer that they make. But there's a couple interesting things about this too, because there's obviously the specialty beers, but in San Diego, a lot of the craft beer tasting rooms are requiring people to buy food in order to come in.
Yes. This is against the whole no purchase necessary model of a lot of contests and the like. This you have to buy something if you're going to run in there. I don't know if this is because of a social distancing thing. I don't know if this is that we have to rebuild again. We have to get back on our feet. The only way we're going to do that is to sell food. And I don't know if that's the case.
It seems to be, Mike, that they are trying to, because a lot of them don't have food on premise, but they have food trucks that will come in. Mm-hmm. So I think it is a way that the craft beer tap rooms and the food trucks are trying to work together to support each other's industries, knowing that they go hand in hand a lot of times, because there are several craft breweries that, especially when they first open, only serve beer. And then they might invite a food truck on a Friday or Saturday night so that people can snack while they're drinking your beers.
Sure.
And it seems to be this is kind of the same thing, at least the same premise, that we can support each other as rising tides lift all ships.
Yeah, look, I'm just here to get a beer. You go grab a taco plate from that truck out there, and then you can come in here and have a beer. Those are some awkward conversations, I'm betting, because if somebody wanted to go out and have a meal, they would probably not go to one of those tap rooms that did not serve food. So if they're going to one of those tap rooms that didn't serve food, they know they're going to a place that doesn't serve food. Yeah. They're not there to eat. They're there to sit down, belly up to the bar, and have what they wanted to have. And if they're being forced to eat and can't, I think this would backfire. I think it's a cool idea. I just don't think it is a good business model by any stretch.
But it might help, at least in the short term, two industries survive after, especially in California, where the close down is lasting a lot longer than it did here in Arizona. In fact, the breweries are included in phase 2 of California's reopening, and I don't even know when that is going to be at this point.
Right. Okay, but let's go back to that business model, though. if it's okay, if you bring in the taco plate, you get a free beer. Your first beer's on us. Or if you bring in that taco plate from the truck, you get 20% off your tab or something like that. Like but I wouldn't go. I'd say, no, I'll pay for full price because I just ate. I just had 8 frozen chimichangas at home because it was left over in my COVID survival freezer and I needed to drain that. But now I've got a full stomach, so I'm going to come here and have some beer. I would rather if it's going to be a joint venture, join together.
Well, we'll see how well it works out there in San Diego, if and when they can actually get open based on the weird guidelines that state is putting forward. Mm-hmm. We know that I don't even know what phase we're in. It doesn't even matter here in the state of Arizona, just that you can go get craft beer. That's what matters. In a moment, are all festivals going to be canceled from here on out? Will we ever get back together in big crowds? Or is this an opportunity because of that to reinvent the festival model? We'll get into that when the Brewmance on the Radio continues next on 550 KFYI. Maybe this is a great opportunity to reinvent the festival system. After all, we don't want to get together, at least for now. Let's weigh in on it. It's the Brewmance on the Radio. Thanks for being a part of the show with us today. My name is Rob Hunter. He over there is Mike Russell. Today we are drinking a special beer that our very good friends at Mother Road Brewing in Flagstaff dropped off for us. But exactly what we were just talking about a few minutes ago here in the show, Mike. Mother Road has kept making new beers. Mm-hmm. Try to get people to go into the tap rooms in a time of need. And this is a beer that you can only get in the tap room called Roadside Grove. The tap room's, of course, in Flagstaff, Arizona. So it's hot as you know what outside. Might be worth the trip up north.
Yes.
A couple of beers at Mother Road Brewing. So, Mike, this festival idea is interesting because we've been a part of a couple of virtual festivals over the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And is it the model that's going to stick going forward where we all gather around a computer from our homes and we say cheers, not clanking glasses?
No, I'm over virtual anything. I had a virtual small business summit this week with Game and Fish. I was asked by another outdoor organization here in the state about the Hall of Fame induction banquet that they have every single year. And they said, should we still do it? Should we still do that? Should we do it virtual? I'm like, if I'm getting inducted in any kind of Hall of Fame, I don't want to do it virtually. What a letdown that would be. And why don't you say, because of COVID-19, we're going to punt this year and we are going to hit the refresh button on this whole thing, which we've done the same way for the past, 5, 6, 10 years. We've done the same way, same everything, same format. Why don't we just spend some time reinventing it? And then when I saw that another festival had gone virtual or just canceled altogether and preparing for the show, I thought, what a good opportunity to look at festivals themselves and think, does it have to be an outside drunk fest? Or can we just change it up a little bit? What could we do to say next year's beer festival season is going to be unlike any other? Or can one or two rise above the rest saying, we took that year to reinvent, we're going to do this differently than any other beer fest this year, come see ours?
Yeah, because I can imagine the Great American Beer Festival, which is the beer festival of festivals when it comes to craft beer. They award medals. They do all kinds of things. Part of the appeal is the numbers of beers you get to taste from places you normally wouldn't get to taste. So there might be a beer there from, let's say, West Virginia, because they entered into the Great American Beer Fest contest. You get a chance to perhaps drink that beer that you would otherwise not get to try unless you go to West Virginia. But virtually, the way they're doing their festival this year, the Great American Beer Festival, it's just not going to work. It's going to take all of that specialness out of it. Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal if you enter the contest and you're trying to win medals to have some accolades that go along with that. But for the rest of us that just want to try different beers because we love craft beer and we love to see what people are making, what's the point of actually attending the festival?
It's not. That's you just don't. But the last one we went to, not going to say which one it was. The last one we went to, I remember driving home. Well, we took an Uber home. And I said, and I think one of us said, that's the same every year.
Yep.
That's the same as the last two that we went to. Not even that exact one. I mean, it's the same last two different festivals we went to. Same. And what could we do as the Brewmance to help reinvent that model, or just to change that model so it's more entertainment and education than it is getting ripped out of your mind?
Mm-hmm.
What is the best way to do this?
Or at least so it's entertaining in a sense, other than it's just a Saturday afternoon or whatever day it happens to be on, where you go with your 5, 6, 8 friends and you drink as many beers as possible, and it's just like hanging out on a typical Saturday.
Right.
It's just in a different venue.
Exactly.
It's in a park or it's in a whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can drink at my house for a lot cheaper. I can
Mm-hmm.
I drink in my house in the backyard in the pool and have people over for a lot less money than it cost me just to go to one of the festivals. And some of these festivals, $7,500 for a ticket, and I can get a lot of beer for $7,500 from the store and have my buddies over.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get steaks to go along with that
Yes.
grill on the grill.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So, well, what comes to mind though, and that's kind of the issue, is we're sort of in this standstill now. I always think that being creative takes time. You have to set time aside to be creative, in other words. And it may not come as plain like, all right, Saturday at noon, I'm going to be creative. That's not typically how it works. But if a creative idea comes to you, you have to explore it. You have to say, okay, that idea came to me out of nowhere. Now I really got to think about this idea. And maybe you have the idea, and then you say, okay, Saturday at noon, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to work through this idea. Otherwise, the idea just evaporates.
Yes.
And it may stick around in your head. That's what we can do effectively right now, because we do have time to hang out on a weekend. So my wife and I typically, Lady Brewmance and I, on weekends, we're like going places like, oh, let's go to Sonoma. Let's go to Flagstaff. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. But we haven't done that for almost 3 months now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been taking weekends to work on projects, projects that we otherwise may have put off if we had been traveling like we normally would.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're all doing that, then we all could sit down and go, what's an idea of how I would do a festival? That's where you can, at that spark of creativity, and maybe someone could come up with a fantastic idea. Maybe it's us, Mike. I don't know.
It is, because I'm coming up with the ideas as you were saying, Ben.
See?
So yes, I honestly think it needs to be refreshed. It needs to be different. And it doesn't, and I'm not talking about booth space or exhibits. What a beer company has a bunch of cool seating areas, which is great.
Sure.
Should be a part of a newer model. But I think there's a lot of things that can be done, and it is a lot easier than we think it is.
Well, it is like, this is kind of how human beings work in a sense. Someone eventually back in the day, created the idea of a beer festival.
Mm-hmm.
And someone was probably like, that's a great idea. I'm going to copy that. And then we just basically copy that system. So it becomes the blueprint on how you do a beer festival. Because I don't know how many we've been to, dozens.
Yes.
They're all relatively the same.
They're all the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are bigger than others. Some are in different places than others. Some indoors, some outdoors. Mm-hmm. And you get to try, the idea is to try different craft beers, which is phenomenal. But the system is the same. So it's, like Tesla, for example. The car has been the car essentially since Henry Ford created the assembly line to make cars more affordable for the average person. Mm-hmm. Essentially, an automobile is the same. And Tesla is only just a little bit different. It's the first electric vehicle that was cool.
Yes.
In a sense.
Because a Prius was never cool. I love you if you drive one. I'm not knocking you. The thing was just never cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and neither was would you say the Prius?
Any minivan.
The Leaf.
Yes.
Or the minivan. That's it. The Tesla, instead of having oil replacements and, combustion engine, it's a software-based vehicle. So that's a different spin on a car. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about with a festival. It's not necessarily reinventing the wheel. It's taking the existing system and creating the Tesla.
Correct. And then that is what can happen in these times where we're canceling these festivals. Drop back 9 and punt. Reinvent it. You don't have to keep just running forward to the end zone. Just regroup and knock one out of the park. I know you use two different sports in analogy, but that's what you can do. And I think that's what I would encourage people to do is say, okay, listen, if we're going to have to force it at this time, we can back it up a little bit and we can do it next year. And 2021 is going to be a bananas festival, XYZ festival.
I was talking to a buddy the other day, and he says, I think this coming week, there's some kind of virtual party going on. And I'm like, okay, great. The virtual party was cool in March.
Yeah.
maybe even in April. But now that we're getting into June, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm good. I'd rather, look, let's take this virtual party at my house. So
Yes.
y'all can come over if you want. I'm not sick, as evidenced by the fact that if I were sick, Mike would be sick. If Mike were sick, I would be sick. We're seeing each other 5 days a week in a confined space. Our
Yes.
boss would be sick. My wife would be sick. Your wife, the kids. So we know that we're not asymptomatic because someone we know would have had it. So that being said, let's come over to my house. Y'all can come if you want. If you're not ready for it yet, that's cool. We'll see you in the next go-around.
Now, I did hear an idea of a concert, a country concert, a tailgate country concert, which I thought would be the coolest idea. Just backing the Falcon up, sitting in the back of sitting in the bed with some lawn chairs and a cooler, and watching a concert on a stage. A bunch of trucks lined up like a drive-in movie. There you go. Now we're reinventing things. We are doing something that's new and exciting, and I'm all in for something like that.
As long as you got the right speaker system, and then don't have to worry about mosh pitting.
But it's the same speaker system at any concert.
Well, but what I'm
Same
saying
thing.
is you need more space with cars. So you have to make sure the sound is good so everybody can hear. Or you have like a low-watt FM signal you can all tune
Sure.
into.
Like
Whatever it is.
when you're driving through the neighborhoods of Christmas and
Yeah.
you get to tune into the light show on whatever station. Yeah.
Exactly right. In a moment, 6 reasons to have a beer with the old timers. We'll tell you what they are in the Brewmance on the radio, and we will review our Mother Road beer next on 550 KFYI.
Why in the world wouldn't you want to have a beer with some old timer? That's right. We got the reasons why. You should sit down, socially distanced, if you know what I'm saying, because we protect that group, and have a beer with
Yes.
somebody that has had a few more laps around the sun than you. This is the Brewmance on the radio. He's Rob Hunter. I am Mike Russell. Every single week, we have a beer of the week from our pals at Mother Road Brewing. This is Roadside Grove American IPA with grapefruit juice. I'm a big grapefruit fan, so I am loving this one. But, you know, in this time where we look at the deaths in nursing homes, and I don't mean to start something off on this negative type of footing, but we have so many deaths in nursing homes. The stats are staggering. These people have died alone. These people have died without their family having the ability to go see them. They have died alone. This is one of the most horrific times in our nation's history just from that alone. How about that senior down the street? How about that senior around the corner that you've just waved to and just said, hey, Ed, as for the last 5 years as he's out walking his dog and, he's got a walker and things like that. Why not invite Ed over to have a beer? Ed, we just stand in the driveway, man. We drink a beer. You want to come hang out with us, man? We'll pull a chair up for you. Why not do that? There are several reasons why you would do that. And my first and foremost is it would mean the entire world to someone like Ed. It would make their year. It would make their decade that someone younger than them, these whippersnappers, kids these days, and yes, 40-year-olds like 40-something-year-olds like Rob and I are still whippersnappers and kids to these guys. They would love to be a part of the crew, be the young kids crew.
I love going out to the in-laws who live out in Buckeye in a retirement community. I live out in the Verrado area because it's basically a street full of retirees.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people that have awesome stories. And I love stories. I'm a big story guy. So older folks, old timers, whatever we want to call them, because that's what this article says, 6 reasons to have a beer with old timers. It's just that. One of the reasons they write here, they know all of life's lessons. And look, it can sometimes be awkward to say, tell me some life lessons. But have them tell you a story about what they did when they were growing up.
What's your biggest screw up?
Yeah.
That's what they mean by life lessons. But translate life lessons? Life lessons are screw ups. Life lessons are something you did is wrong and you got taught a lesson. Life taught you a lesson. I think that's kind of the same thing. Where'd you screw up at?
I don't know if I'd ask it that way,
I would.
but I would just say, hey, what are the lessons? If you were to give one lesson to me about life, what would it be?
Don't get into radio. I kid. No, I think it's a good way to ask the question.
Because again, it's all about how you ask the question.
Yes.
Because you have to show some genuine interest and they'll answer honestly. Number 2, they give great advice. Not everybody gives great advice. but everybody has the ability to give you great advice. I love this one too. They tell you like it is. No. Nobody tells you like it is. We tell each other the way we see it.
True. And going back to the give the best advice, I lived in the Midwest for a brief time. Man, I don't care what age you were in Missouri, you were seldom right, but never in doubt.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it was always like, no, it's this way. It's all of them. They all had the right way to do things, and because of this, and you have to buy this one and not that one and this one, all of them dialed in. I'm like, you guys give crappy advice. I'm going to go to Amazon reviews, and I'll buy what the Amazon reviews tell me.
Well, but that's it. You have to understand that sometimes a 75-year-old hasn't updated his or her lessons in 30, 40 years.
Yes.
So that giving you advice from 30 or 40 years ago. But
don't start necking with a woman until the 5th date.
Yeah, exactly. Necking.
Yes.
You know when you were serious when you start necking.
Mm-hmm. Bring a rhubarb pie to the first date for her parents.
They're not 170. Jeez. Number 4 of the 6 reasons. I'm just going to read you the last.
Okay, give them to me.
These are the 6 reasons to have beers with old timers at a social distance. There's no drama. Number 4. Number 5, you can learn history without a book.
True.
Number 6, they provide hope and comfort.
Interesting.
Yeah, good reasons.
I just like hanging with old people because they're cool.
I love
curse a lot. It's funny. They got good war tattoos and stuff. I'm like, yes. Tell me all the cool stuff.
I want to hear stories about where you grew up. I want to hear stories about what your career was and why you chose that. And did you make a pivot? If you're a police officer, I want to hear the police officer stories. I want to hear the Army stories.
I used to live across the street from the 12th employee at Hewlett-Packard.
Wow. It was top 10. I'd be impressed.
Oh! His employee number was 00012.
Yeah. Considering my iHeart employee number is in the 100,000
exactly.
range.
Thank you.
That gives you a sort of idea of how this actually works. It's fantastic.
But I do love the stories he told. Fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Cool. And that's it. Like, I want to hear from grandmas now or moms. What are some parenting lessons? I'm not even a parent, but I still love to find out about the challenges in raising kids. And, well, this kid did that, and this kid's doing this now. I just all that stuff. You see this one? Speaking of old folks, 103-year-old woman had COVID-19, recovered.
Yes.
Celebrated by cracking open and chugging a Bud Light.
Sup, girl?
I love it.
How you doing? Yeah.
And she's a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
Die-hard Red Sox fan.
Yeah, just go kill the whole vibe right there, man. I was like, what's up? She's looking good, chugging that beer. What's up, mama?
Wilbraham, Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's all good. She's adorable.
She was like basically born around the time the Red Sox were.
But she took the hydroxychloroquine, and then she got better, and then she pounded a Bud Light. Good for her.
Yeah.
That's the video. I mean, she's in like a hospital bed. She's 103 years old.
Here's what her great grandson-in-law wrote. Hell yes, she's a feisty Polish woman. He ended by saying, gangster.
You don't mess with a Polish woman.
Oh, no. My wife's a Polish woman.
Yeah, they come with it. Don't play. Yeah, but that's it, though. If I am cursed to live that long, so I don't want to live that long. I really don't. I think 80, 85, like my grandfather, 86, fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Get me off this train. I don't need 17 more years after that.
Still good at 85.
You would obviously for her it is, and that's the point I was getting to. Like, to her it was because she knows to like give me a beer. Like, I can't believe I just beat this thing. The doctors let me go right now. Somebody bring me a beer. I'm taking this thing straight to the head. I know I'm 103 years old. I don't care.
She's going to be hammered off of 2 sips.
Seriously.
Because she's 103.
She chugged it. Hey, I saw the video.
Good for her.
She was hammered.
How about our weird beer of the week? It's baseball-themed, actually.
Yes.
Jersey City-based brewery Departed Souls has put out their brand new beer. It's called Trash Can Banger, and it makes fun of the Astros of Houston for stealing signs and winning the 2017 World Series.
From who?
The Los Angeles Dodgers.
Taking my boys in blue down by cheating, you little punks.
The can art is phenomenal because it's the Astros colors. It's so good.
Yes.
Such a great beer of the week. Weird beer of the week.
That's right. Not weird beer of the week. That's on point beer of the week. How about that?
There you go. How about our beer of the week?
Yeah.
A special delivery from Mother Road Brewing to the Brewmance from our buddy Dennis at Mother Road. the Roadside Grove. You can only get this up in Flagstaff at the tap rooms. It's an IPA with grapefruit juice. So, Mike, what do you think?
Make the trip. Go to call the tap room, see if they have some, make the trip up there for this. I'm a big grapefruit fan. I love grapefruit. I love stuff with the grapefruit in there, like grapefruit sculpin. I was excited when that happened. And other grapefruit beers. I love it that they chose grapefruit for this. I love the can art. I love their whole theme of the whole Route 66 deal. I love it. Absolutely. This is an easy 8.5 for me.
Nothing wrong with it. I love they stick with the car theme. So it was an older truck on the can art. And Roadside Grove, because you've all been there. Maybe it was when you were a kid and your parents dropped you off or stopped somewhere and there was a fruit tree or a blueberry bush or something. And you're like, cool. This parked right next to the grapefruit tree in the Roadside Grove. So I love it just from that alone. I'm going to give it a 9 because, once again, Mother Road just bringing it. Their brewers up there, man, they are on point. And I love the fact that they which say on their cans, we're building community one pint at a time. That one of the other reasons why we love the entire Mother Road Brewing crew. Not only because they bring us beer. This is a tap room limited release, so make sure you act fast if you get.
I can only think of 3 things that I liked about living in California and that I miss about California. One of the things that I miss about living in California are the roadside strawberry stands and all the big strawberry fields out there. I mean, there was obviously nothing as fresh. They were picked minutes prior, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And I just like orange groves and grapefruit trees and stuff like that. I just love picking straight from the tree and going. Oh.
See, in the Northeast, I grew up in Massachusetts. We had blackberry bushes in the neighborhood. And they were wild blackberry bushes, but we were kids. We ate them. We didn't die, so it worked out okay.
A neighbor of ours had a kumquat tree. I didn't know it still to this day. Wouldn't be able to see a kumquat and recognize it, but we'd always pick it and eat them.
And it sounds dirty, so you can stay away.
It does, right?
It sounds dirty, and you can be like, hey, man, it's just a fruit.
It's just fruit.
We got to get out of here. We are the Brewmance. You can check out our podcast. It's separate from the Brewmance on the radio, where Mike and I disagree on things. Crack open a beer, see if we can come to a happy medium, if you will. Check it out on the iHeartRadio app, on Instagram at _Brewmance, on Facebook as well, where you can check out the video of this broadcast at facebook.com/thebrewmance. Until next Saturday night at 6 p.m. here at 550 KFYI.
Cheers, everybody.